to Imperial Kingdom. Let's talk a little bit about this fight with Conor Benn and Ryan Garcia. And just a couple of things people are saying. I've been hearing some people say. I've been hearing this phrase recently, silver spoon. Silver spoon, referring to Conor Benn. Ryan Garcia asked him when they linked up for the pre-fight face-to-face. And Ryan was asking him, what makes you about that life? Well, who are you? As in, who are you? And all that stuff. And there was a commentator who said, Ben is just a silver spoon fighter. He's just a silver spoon, referring to the fact that you're just a child of some rich daddy who was an ex-fighter. Now let me educate you a little bit. Let me educate you a little bit on this fact. That phrase, silver spoon, when they say someone was born with a silver spoon, that means you're privileged, you're just soft, you've been given everything, and this and that. In this case, in fighting, in the fight world, it doesn't apply. That phrase, you can cross that out in fighting. You can cross that out in business world too, a lot of time. Reason why, when we talk about a fighter, being a fighter's son, one thing you're going to run up against is something primordial, something almost eternal. It's a brick wall that you can't jump over, and it's called DNA. DNA is something you can't deny. It's undeniable. It's a scientific fact. It's a scientific process. It's a scientific order. It's a chemical and biological factor that is immutable. You can't deny it. You can't remove it. You can't pretend it's not there unless you destroy it. And it's active. It's constantly active within the fighter's being. One aspect of the DNA is obviously the biological aspect. So there's information in the person's cells. In this case, it will be Conor, or it was Chris Eubank, or the other one, or whoever the fighter's son. Layla Ali, fighter's son or fighter's daughter. And there are instructions within those cells telling the human body how to operate based on the memories etched upon that person's life, the one who lived before. Everything he does, everything you do is recorded in your body, and your body knows it and records it for your survival. It's a part of the philosophy of science, early science, called the survival of the fittest. So the body knows via the cells, via the mitochondria within the cells, the experiences that person lived, and it works its best to improve it and in order to aid his survival. You start lifting like this, yeah, of course, your biceps are going to come up, right? You do running, you're affecting your lungs, right? But it records it and it stores it, not only for that individual, but for his children, his line, his lineage, because just in case they need it too. And the DNA philosophy is that there's a likelihood that individual needs it, especially when it's a repetitive activity or experience, even mental, because the brains have these systems also. Even the traumas the person experiences, the anxieties, the stresses. Animals have it too. Even when you're fighting, the feeling of, I went through this. When you fought this, when you ran through the jungles. There's so many cells within the body that capture these memories and store it and then transfer it down the lines. This is called DNA. DNA. Absolutely. And when the DNA is stored in the body, it doesn't mean that instantly you automatically are going to start operating like that. But the chances are now much higher that you are going to be that way. It's called being predisposed. That means you're now predisposed to being this way. All it takes is for that person's response to trigger those characteristics. And then they can even improve upon it and increase those characteristics. They're the next generation, they're the second, sometimes the third, sometimes the fourth, and it goes on and on. So, as far as fighters are concerned, you're talking about even physical condition, you're talking about the actual, like I said, the anxieties of the fight, the challenges, the mental focus, the desire aspect, the fight or flight, chemicals, hormones, muscular activity, bones, structure and density, mental triggers, efficiency of various systems in the body. They're all affected and related. So when you're talking about DNA, it's not a small thing. DNA is not by any means a mere issue. No. You're talking about something very core within the human situation. So when we talk about second generation fighters, you can't call them silver spoon. You better call them golden spoon, because they've inherited something very rare. Especially when we talk about fighters, you're talking about, again, survival of the fittest. A very core, primordial issue within the human race. Yeah. Very, very, very important topic. But not really discussed because it's one of the high science issues. And in fighting, sometimes a person could have a fighter's DNA and not use it because it's dormant. But when they begin to tickle it, you begin to do certain activities that fall in line with those experiences of your fathers who were that. It begins to promote within the recesses of the genes, of the genetic code, the characteristics that are necessary for this. It's a much more heightened situation, acute for battle. The body's more primed for this. And it may manifest in many forms, various forms. The fitness levels might be. Professional fighters try their best, to train for fitness, increasing the lung capacity, the amount of oxygen you can take in. Do various things. Some run, some do this, some do that. We all know. But when it's in the DNA, it doesn't mean you just wake up in the morning fit. But some are actually. Remember in school, when your little friend in school, he can run forever, run like a deer. He wasn't an athlete, but he just wake up in the morning because he had it in his DNA. That's the DNA factor. That's the factor of the DNA. So again, that will manifest. And one like Ryan Garcia, and even the other commenter who was making those comments, to diminish that issue, saying, "Oh, you silver spoon, you're just your father's son." No, that's ignorance. That's ignorance, because it's a big deal. It's a freebie from heaven. It's a freebie from heaven. Let's call it that. It's a freebie from heaven. So that doesn't mean the person's gonna win or the person's gonna lose. but you already have something extra. Now, you can have it and still be rubbish. But the point is, you have that's up to you. That's your fault if you went and wasted your talent. But we're not talking about being rubbish or even winning. We're just saying you have an advantage. It's a clear, factual, undeniable, objective advantage. It can't be said anything less than an advantage. It's a whole person's life. Now, you're just talking about the DNA and the physical and biological factors, or the mechanical systems. How about the social aspects? When a fighter's wondering about certain things up at night, and he's thinking, I need to do this, or do I need to do that? Should I do this? And he's not sure. Things that might have taken years. Many trainers, he can call his father and say, hey, how about this? So don't tell me it's not an advantage. Same applies even to business. I've heard some people call, even one like Eddie Hearn, a silver spoon. But no, you're forgetting that his father had to go through many circumstances of hardship and mental trauma to whiz his way through the jungle of business life. All those things mentally, in terms of the emotional stress, and also the mental acuity, the sharpness of the mind. Brain cells that are related to this activity will be heightened, sharpened, and then inherited. You must have heard, or you might not have. One of those same philosophies in science called inheritance and selection. The genetic code sends those sets of instructions, which are recorded in cells, down the lines via the DNA, the deoxyribonucleic acid, through the genes, encoded within the systems of the DNA. Very complicated linguistic systems of highly sophisticated syntax and communication. Very specific to what was done and what is necessary to make adjustments within those genes to enhance even sometimes and protect for survival. So even just activities that are not only merely physical or purely physical, like business, thought life, anything you do, the moment you've done it, it's recorded. But if it's a repetitive action, then it's even more so paid attention to in the body. So next time you say silver spoon, think again. You might really mean golden spoon. Be careful what you say. And never take your opponent for granted. Till next time on Imperial Kingdom, we'll talk again and more on the subject. Some great fights tonight, including Tim Tszyu and Errol Spence. I spoke on that also in a different one. See you soon on Imperial Kingdom. Have a good night.